Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Pullboxpals, and this is a special guest episode. We have the 2022 Indies Award for Best New and Promising Comic, which is Dream Master. We got Jonathan Hedrick with us. How you doing, Jonathan?
Good. Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
No problem. I wish we had like fanfare to go in the background. Like, I feel like
if
I'm
we
a
had
bad
fireworks going on around his like frame,
or like canned like audience noise. You know, like cheering and wooing.
Oh
you know?
yeah.
Like I need a soundboard. That's what
Yeah.
I'm lacking over here. That's what I'm discovering.
we'll get that in the budget someday.
Gotta start monetizing.
Yeah, but yeah, dude, congrats on the win. Like that was awesome.
Yeah, I'm just stoked that people voted. You know, that was an all votes type award show that You Promised Me Comics put on. So I just shared the ballot a few times. There's a lot of other awesome titles on that same that were nominated as well for the same category.
I
just pushed it hard enough.
Yeah, no, and I think it's either because of you, or probably it's the both and, but there's also Jonathan Chance, and he he won for like other like publisher, like best new comic from a other publisher or whatever, and that series that he wrote's pretty phenomenal too. But
Covered the Dead in Line.
So but yeah, it's just cool to see like there's an indie award show. Like I was like so excited when you guys were kind of promoting your nominations, and I was like, like I'm totally gonna watch this, but my kids got in the way, so I didn't get to start it until after the show ended.
Perfect timing.
Like, don't spoil anything for me. But yeah, that's awesome. So
thank you.
So you are a writer.
That's right.
That is what I don't think we clarified with the audience. And
I might have said that. Who knows in all of that? And
man, like, I think the first thing I'd like to say is, I got introduced to you with a comic we'll talk about, I'm sure, down the road, but Hyper Aware. And I like absolutely loved it so much. Like, it's one of the best cliffhangers of a comic, and then you find out it's a one shot and you're like, no, I want more. But like it's still just such a complete story. But also, from just looking at all of your other work, you're very diverse in what you write about. And that's, I think, one of my favorite things about reading your work, especially over the last few days. I've been really like crunching down on it. And
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, dude. So you put out some great stuff.
I appreciate that. I don't like to be like paint myself in the corner in one genre. There's so many different genres that I like in all types of form of media. So why not, dabble in them all if there's a story for it,
Yeah,
I definitely feel like that's been something that's changed over the last like couple of maybe decades or something like that, is that creatives are allowed to branch out of beyond. And I think often about that with Donald Glover. He started as a stand-up, as a writer, acting, all that stuff, and just it not feeling like you have to be pigeonholed into just one thing. And I think that's being able to do that. It's fantastic of being able to step into different genres and to wear those shoes properly. That's really cool.
Yeah, and even to like kind of flip that script too with like celebrities, it seems like there's a lot of celebrities putting out comics these days.
Don't get me started about my opinions on that.
yeah,
I'm sure.
But I mean, like, that just has to be like such a different thing, because like you kind of self-funded your first few comics, right? Or like you had them up on Kickstarter.
Really the only one that I haven't had to pay out of my own pocket, with exception of here and there, is Dream Master, because I'm hired to write that one. That's not my IP.
Oh, that's awesome.
Black Box came to me with the synopsis, and they own all the rights. I get paid a page rate for that, and in lack of better words, walk away. I'm so heavily involved in promoting it, of course. Like that's why I'm here right now. But I also give input with the art direction here and there, and some editorial stuff. But a lot of my other stuff is pretty much me paying out of pocket, and hopefully trying to get some back, either crowdfunding or the royalties way down the line. So it's a lot of swimming in debt.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But so let's get people buying up your comics. But so Dream Master, so you were hired for this one.
That's right. Yeah.
Wait, before we get into that, before we start diving down this, I want to know, how did you get into writing? Was it have you always been doing it? Is it something that you picked up in the last couple of years? What's kind of your background with that and also comics? Like, tell us about yourself.
Well, I've always felt like I was a writer. That was always like a strong, suit for me in like grade school. That's what I had a strength in, other than other subjects like math, science, and I had teachers tell me, hey, you answered this question right, but you took too long to answer it, so we're gonna take points off. That makes sense. Right, yeah. Thank you, Florida Public School. But I've even had teachers back then saying, you should do something, lean into that with something. But when you're a kid in middle school, high school, that you don't have posters on your wall of famous writers. You want to be like a rock star or an athlete. But I always jotted things down. I always had composition books. I would write little short stories, fan fiction. I would submit things here and there to magazines, newspapers. Nothing ever came out of it. I'd say about 5 years ago, and I've always been a long-term comic book fan. I've always liked that. Loved comic books from Spinner Rack days. Ninja Turtles, got me into reading them and that format and sequential storytelling, and that kind of it grew from there. But a few years ago, I had a short story. I was wondering if I could adapt that into a comic script format. I taught myself how to write a comic book script through, I checked out some books from the library. There's a whole, if anyone's interested in learning to write comic books, go to your local library or go to their online and have them send them from the other library in your county or whatever. And there's a lot of good resources out there. So, I kind of mirrored some of the examples they had and learned art direction and the dialogue. It's a lot like if you read a play, if you ever had to read a play, kind of similar to that, more or less. But after I got done,
assume that there's a little bit more like pows and booms in the
yes, there's more sound effects than there would in a play. But after I got done with that script, I'm like, well, now what do I do with this? So I asked someone in the community that I already knew was making indie comic books, like what do I do next? They directed me to how to find an artist. I hired an artist before I knew it. I was getting pages back and seeing it. And once I had that first comic book in hand, I was addicted. It's I knew how.
What was that feeling like, though? I mean, you just got somebody that you didn't really know, I assume, to draw art for a comic script that you wrote. So,
well, it's always nerve-wracking when you have to PayPal someone that you haven't met before face to face. But thankfully, that artist, Ben Worrell, he lives in Colorado Springs, and he was great. I couldn't have asked for a better first artist to collaborate with.
That's awesome.
I learned a lot about the streamline, not the streamline, but the have someone give you 5 pages and you send that to the colorist, and then the colorist turns back and you go to the letterer. And once I got that system down and I knew I could do the project management side of it, I figured it out. I'm like, now it's just on me to produce the scripts and handle the money part of it. So, it all started falling into place, but it took a lot and a lot of time before having that first comic book printed out in hand.
Yeah, I'm sure that was quite the process. But I want to go back. You said like what kind of got you into it as a kid was Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah, I'm a product of the '80s, so growing up,
Same here.
Ninja Turtles were huge. Yeah, and you couldn't get enough. I couldn't get enough of it. The cartoons were only on so much, but a comic book I could read over and over again. So,
do you remember what your first like comic was for the Ninja Turtles?
Yeah, it was one of the Archie, when I think Archie Comics was putting out the cartoon adaptation. I think it was TMNT Adventures or something like that, and they were just single issues of the episodes.
Oh yeah,
I think it was Archie, or it might have been, maybe it was Mirage. I can't remember. Anyways, it was one of those.
Fact check that later.
Yeah, thank you. It was definitely one of those, TMNT Adventures. And then shortly after, it was the adaptation of the movie, the first live action movie. Which, and then I was like, this was before my family could even afford a VCR, so I could, read or re-enjoy that movie over and over again via the comic book. And there was even like an extra scene in it. I was like, whoa, I didn't see that in the movie.
Yeah.
That's so funny how
adaptations are cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've said this before on this, but I think Marvel really dropped the ball with the movies of not doing comics in between, because I feel like it would you'd be able to tell more stories with Captain America, with Iron Man, Ant-Man, and then also you'd be pushing your main the reason that these characters exist is because of these comic books. So if you're pointing them ultimately back to these comics, I think it's just like a self-feeding machine,
Yeah,
I don't understand why they do that, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about some great indie stuff.
There was we were talking about comic book adaptations, and something that I have that I've never even shown Monk, but I have the Stephen King The Stand comic book adaptation.
Yeah.
It is so good. And like I'm slightly dyslexic with reading regular books, it's something I really have to like press myself to do, and that's why I like reading comics, is because I get so much more out of like the pictures.
Oh, for sure.
And then with dialogue attached, it's just like, okay, like it's just more free flowing for me. But yeah, the Stand adaptation is amazing, and I don't even know like where you can find it these days. But again, that's Marvel, and we're not here to talk about that.
I can appreciate that because I'm a big fan of the Dark Tower, and the comic books adapted a lot of the the Dark Tower books and expanded upon it in a huge way. So if you were like a fan of that book series, not only can you see it visually through comic books, but it gives you a lot more to it as well.
Yeah,
I have the omnibus of the first like chunk of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
nice. But yeah, speaking of art, I want to start talking about Dream Master. We all okay with that?
That sounds good.
You talked about earlier, just like you don't really know a lot of times like who you're going to get art back from. And so how did you get, well, let's see, you're artist for Dream Master, Luigi?
Yeah, Luigi Baricelli.
Yes. Great name. Yeah. So did Black Box just connect you with him, or did you have previous history?
That was all Black Box, and I had no say of who they were going to hire for it. And when I was writing the first couple of scripts, I didn't even know who the artist was going to be. And I think it was when I was writing issue 3 that I finally started seeing pages back from issue 1, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't know, like, now I know what this artist can do. I need to like give this guy more stuff per panel per page, because Luigi just adds so much to it, and his details are amazing. So
oh my gosh, yeah.
I think that's why issue 3, this arc really finds itself in issue 3, because that's when I knew who I had, as my guitar soloist. To use a musical analogy, but he's amazing.
How
just
does
to show the just got switched out. Go ahead.
How did you describe what Dream Master looked like to Luigi? Or did he just come up with that?
That was Black Box kind of working hand in hand with him.
Okay.
Since there's they own the IP, they went through back and forth with Luigi on character design, and I got brought in to just input, but I didn't have any hard no, that can't be it, or yes, that is it.
Yeah.
But that was mainly Black Box driving what his look is.
So when you're that's a great page.
Yeah.
The dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for all of our audio listeners, but go ahead and check out the art in this, because it is phenomenal.
Go to your local comic shop and ask them to get you Dream Master.
Yeah, for serious. And I'm a big fan of the design. I think that's really cool, and I'm sure being able to see that and write for that character was probably I would imagine that very much goes hand in hand with the
I'll hold up the first issue here so people
so someone described it as German death metal Rorschach from I'm like that's I'm down with that. It gives those vibes.
So did you have a drawing of him already, or is this something did they give this drawing to Luigi and he played with it, and did you also have the same image?
Yeah, I had some very loose layouts and sketches of the character before really diving deep into the series, but like I said, I was already on issue 3 when I saw real final inked pages and getting colored pages back too from Ruben, the colorist, and I was blown away. For being hired onto this book and not having to pay for this type of quality, it is just a dream come true. No pun intended. It's I could not afford the production of this book for sure.
Yeah. No, it is phenomenal.
So we didn't even really get into the story of it at all. So I feel like it would be appropriate, Jonathan, for you to tell us a story, but because I feel like when I tell a story, it's terrible. And so I always feel like a child when I talk about the narratives of the story. I'm just well, this happened and then this, and but you want to just set up the premise for us?
Yeah, the elevator pitch I like to give people is imagine Freddy Krueger, but he's a good guy, and let's say I'm at a con or a signing. Once I got the person to stop after I've told them that, then I usually give them more of a synopsis. And Dream Master is this cursed person, this cursed hero that lives in a dream world that protects us from our nightmares, because in this comic book you can actually die in your nightmare, and if you wake up, it's because he saved you, but you don't even know who he is. So he's this thankless, unsung hero that's just cursed to protect us. And the person that's trying to kill people, if she's called the Queen of the Night, and if she gets enough souls, she can actually enter our reality, and then our reality would collapse, and we would always be living inside a nightmare. So I get to have a lot of fun with that.
It is, and it's really fun to read.
Thank you.
I really I knew of it because I had asked a few weeks ago, what comic are you looking forward to coming out? And you responded with Dream Master number 3, and I was like,
hashtag promoted.
Hey, and I was like, oh, I
definitely should. It's worth it.
Yeah, and so I immediately ordered them after you said that, and
Thank
so
you.
that was back in January. So all that that stone's throw away. But man, yeah, I love a comic where you just don't know what you're really getting into, and I'm really big on titles too. So I was like, okay, obviously this guy's Dream Master, but like, what does that mean? And like, I was just looking at the covers online, and I was just so like entrapped by the not just the lines, but yeah, the color, and the colorist does such a Ruben.
Ruben Corto.
Yeah, he does such a good job of laying out the soundtrack for the comic, and like with Luigi and Ruben's work together, like you can feel like you're in the dream world, and that's what I really liked. And
one thing that I think I really appreciated about it was the way that the narrative was told. You kind of I think besides issue number 3, correct me if I'm wrong, you start from the person whose dream that it is, their perspective.
Right.
And I thought that it was really interesting of reading issues number 1 and 2 in that manner of seeing how these people got to learn about him in the brief time that they were in the dream world.
So the girl from issue 1, and then like the businessmen or whatever from issue 2, like are there names for them?
You'll learn their names later on in the series. Yes.
Okay. Because I found that like a very interesting like aspect.
I wish I had a grill sound like. I need a soundboard. you need to get a soundboard.
But because like issue 1 and 2, like you have these two people who are having dreams. They're like living in a nightmare. And then in issue 3, Dream Master stumbles upon Otto, and I'm like, okay, this is the first like character that we're really being introduced to, and you don't really know anything about the girl, you don't really know anything about the guy, and like Dream Master seems to barely know anything about himself,
right?
And so like what is like the psychology behind like Dream Master's thinking? Like who are you like kind of like basing this just forgetfulness of who he is on?
A lot like the main protagonist from Memento. Think about it that way. Like that guy was always one step forward, 2 steps back.
That's one of my top 5 favorite films.
Great movie.
Yeah.
So Dream Master, part of the story for him in the series is that the more he uses his power to save these dreamers, he loses more of his memory of who he was. So so he's trying to use things within this dreamer's dream, like a hammer, like a crossbow, without having to use his actual magical powers, so he can actually retain something of who he used to be. And the longer the time goes without him using that power, the more he'll gain back. But then he's at risk of losing it. So the point of one of the main themes is we're learning who Dream Master is while we're reading this comic book, while Dream Master is learning it himself. So it's like this organic, building of the exposition throughout the entire series. So it's very challenging to write in one way, but it's also a lot of fun to write that way too. I can just kind of grow with this character.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Something I really appreciated about that was kind of the just natural forgetfulness of dreams, of just because you definitely have dreams where you're just like, wait, wasn't I just doing something else?
Right.
And I'm sure that that's probably what like Dream Master's day is like, of just like, wait, wasn't I just saving somebody?
Yeah.
Like I was just helping this person with a dragon or whatever it is,
Yeah.
So
that's when this project was presented to me. It was stressed that we make it feel like a dream, that we hop from one scene to the next, so that's what I really like about it. I can change the scenery. We're not always in the same town. We're not always in the same city. I get to sit down in front of, my pad and paper and be like, all right, where do I want to take Dream Master? And what kind of crazy demon monster nightmare do I want to throw at him?
Yeah.
Honestly, I finished writing the second volume, and it's just so much even more wilder than what this first one is. Now that I know like what I can do and what I've already done, and taking it into all kinds of other levels.
Well, so far it's a great introduction to Dream Master. Like I'm loving it. I ordered 4 and 5 directly from Black Box. I'll be waiting on those. And
yeah, I appreciate that.
How many issues are the first arc?
5. Yeah,
5.
It's going to be five each volume. So,
well, this kind of makes me have to pull the question. So Monk has a theory on what the perfect story arc number is, and I would love to get your opinion on it. But I'm gonna say too, like I kind of side with him now, but he loves a 4-issue arc.
Can I also just say that each story is different, I also would tend to. I think if Stan Lee held a gun to my head and asked me how many it was, I would say maybe 5, because I think like if you get to tell a good story, I think some of the reason that I love 4-issue arcs so much is because I love very like absurd things, or just very like quick look into worlds. And it's like one of my favorite comics last year was The Fourth Man. And the reason that I love that comic so much was because it didn't beat around the bush. It just told a story, and the story that it told was captivating the entire time. And I feel very similar to Dream Master, of just like, I want to know what's happening in this, and you can continue to tell the story. My favorite comic ongoing is that Texas Blood, and those are I think 6 each arc or something like that, 5, 6. So I'm not married to this concept. It's just a fun little bit we have on this show.
Yeah. I mean, from my point of view, it's hard for me to say what the exact number is as a creator, because when I go into writing something more than a one shot, I have to think of the financial part of it too. But I also don't want the finances to limit the storytelling. So I don't want to force a story because I can't afford 7 issues. But it's something I have to, it's a reality that I have to consider. So like the recount, the first volume was 4 issues, but it ended off on a cliffhanger with the intention of being another volume. And then there was the prequel one shot. I have coming out later in the year, Capable, which is something I crowdfunded most of, but that's a 7-issue limited series.
Nice.
So it all depends on the story. But yeah, when you're creator owned and you're funding it yourself, it all depends. That's why last year there's so many one shots I had, because that's easy to produce, but it also can be more impacting too, from if you think of it like an episodic type of storytelling way. So there's not a magical number. I'm sure some people intentionally have numbers like 8 billion genies, 8 issues. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Right.
It has to be.
Right.
But yeah, no, so let's get into your one shots. So I had mentioned you backstage, and people who follow me on Instagram know, like, I read Hyper Aware last year when it came out, and man, I seriously just like loved that comic so much. Like, was just, to me, it was a complete one shot that still left you wanting more.
Right.
But like, you just know you're getting the one story, and like, hopefully, maybe someday you can do another like 5 arc or 5 issue arc with those characters,
or do 5 arcs. Do 5 arcs.
5 arcs, but yeah, Hyper Aware. That story was just so like, where did that come from, I guess, is my biggest question for you, because like I mentioned, like you're very diverse in what you write, and so Hyper Aware, we have kind of this lost in space like Odyssey, essentially. And man, so like where did this concept come from?
That it probably came from my passion and me enjoying just the dense, smart sci-fi stories like Event Horizon, a little known one called Sunshine, Not very many people know that one, but
I know of it. I've never seen it, but it's somebody I know is favorite.
The director,
movies.
I'm going to butcher his name. Same one from Train Spotting and Danny Boyle.
Glover.
I think Danny Boyle.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
It got Cillian Murphy in it, Chris Evans, a lot of great, but and then like the Aliens franchise, and it's I've always been obsessed with hypersleep, and how it's kind of like a form of one directional time travel. And I wanted to tell kind of like a Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, Black Mirror type story that way.
Even that though, just the hypersleep, like that always takes me back to Planet of the Apes. Like, the intro to it, it's like, oh, hypersleep failed these people and only this one person survived. But like it did. Like I can see all of those movies and other influences just impacting this story. But the dynamic between the three characters, and then what's the AI Algernon or Algernon?
Algernon, yeah.
Algernon, yeah.
Algernon, yeah.
A bit of a comic relief with the Algernon, but like you have this love triangle between, I got their names here, Commander Granger, Specialist Jones, and First Officer Roya.
Yeah.
I think so. Something I try to be good at is rereading comics. And this is one I probably read it through it at least 5 times. And then
awesome!
When you came on, said that you'd come onto the show, I probably read it like 3 more times.
Wow! Oh, thank you. Yeah, a lot of kudos too to Deborah Lanchinese. She did everything else other besides writing that. She penciled, inked, colored, and lettered that in like a 30-day period because.
That's crazy.
She's wanted to enter a contest in Italy. She's Italian, and her and I have been working on another series called Quicksand for a while, and she approached me for this contest, and she said, "Jonathan, if you give me a script, I'll take care of everything. You don't have to pay me for anything, and then when it's done, you can have it and do whatever you want with it."
Wow.
So I was like, okay, I already have something in mind. Just give me a couple of weeks. I'll give you the script. Gave her the script. And like in 30 days, she put everything up. Oh, and it was submitted to that contest, translated in Italy, in Italian. So
wow.
She's lettered this book twice, once in Italian and once in English.
That's awesome.
She submitted it to that contest. She won, by the way. She won a drawing tablet.
Wow.
And
wow, kudos to her.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
How did you get paired with her?
So I hired her for another book called Quicksand a couple of years ago, and I crowdfunded the first 3 issues of that one, and she's just great. She's just just like a Marvel trained artist that can produce quality pages fast and accurate to what your art direction is. So
yeah, and if she's taking care of all the art and the lettering and hyper aware, it's just like that's at least 3
that
hats
was a gift
she's wearing. And
but
something Monk and I have chatted about before is just like letterers are kind of the unsung hero of comics.
Like, for sure. They're using another musical analogy, they're the drummer, they're in the back, they're keeping the beat, but without them, the whole book would be off rhythm. So
yeah, and I pulled it up and I'm looking at it, is I really appreciate letters that are willing to like use, not just they found a font, they're going for it, but there's different fonts in here. There's different it actually looks like it was written and not just like typed out or even if it was typed out, it's very well put together in a way that is used in using them properly.
Yeah, like Algernon has a different, his dialogue boxes are different from the crew members, because he sounds different. We need to know that he's coming from like the speakers and the, from the walls of the ship.
Yeah. Right. No, those are like those little things that I just really appreciate about going through a comic and just seeing how a letter like adjust the speech pattern of somebody, but just by like maybe changing the dialogue box to yellow and putting squiggly lines instead of like the regular comic.
Yeah, it's a whole nother art form, you know.
Yeah,
it really is. You know, it's taking graphic design to like a real artistic way. You know,
yeah,
all those letterers, they deserve their praise individually.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, so anybody who hasn't picked up Hyper Aware, like, please go pick it up. Like it's a fantastic issue. It's Source Point Press put it out.
Source Point Press. Yeah, it was still in the contest when I submitted it to Source Point Press, when I pitched it to them, and we signed the contract before that contest was even over. And then we found out that she won the contest. So I said, hey, Source Point, in case you want to put a little blurb that it's an award-winning comic book.
So did it also get put out then in Italy in Italian?
No, it was only released online on that contest website, but in the Italian version. So you could read the Italian version online. But
okay.
Yeah, so this was the only time it was out in print and available in English.
Yeah, because something I appreciate is I'm trying to remember if I think it's a Blaze Comics. They do a lot of importing foreign comics into America and getting them into English, and so it's just like
we need more of that.
Yeah, and it's cool to kind of see it. Like, it's gone the other way because you have yours.
I believe Cover the Dead with Lime, is that originally written in Spanish or is it in English? It's in English.
No, it's Boogeyman.
Okay. Yeah, and then also I just finished reading. Oh, no, that's right. It could be another one.
No, it's Boogeyman.
I also finished reading Nobody's Girls, and that was originally in Spanish, and then that got translated over into English. So it's really cool to be able to, like, why limit yourself when you have the ability to translate like that?
Yeah, but that's cool. It's cool that yours is out there in Italian.
Yeah,
if I could read Italian, I would totally go read it.
Bene. That's all I got.
So, of these books that I want to talk about, you've worked with artist Stefano. I'm going to try my hand at his name, Stefano Cardacelli.
Yeah, Stefano. Yeah, that's another Italian artist. Luigi's. There's a lot of talent coming out of Italy.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's great to know. So he did Space Cadet with you and Caffeinated Hearts.
Yep, that's actually our second and third books together. We did another one a few years back called Freak Show Night as well. That was published by Second Sight Publishing. But Space Cadet and Caffeinated Hearts both came out last year, and super proud of those two books. Space Cadet was our all ages book, and Caffeinated Hearts was our slice of life. So
yeah, because Space Cadet's put out by like Scouts, like all ages. Scoot, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, they're all ages.
Yeah. I love Space Cadet.
Thank you.
I did too. That just makes me like sound like I wanted to jump in so I can be like, all right, guys. But I just want to say we're big fans of Scout Comics here.
Great.
They put out a lot of really cool stuff, and there's their website that I check out like every Wednesday and just order either the digital versions or physical versions of whatever they put out, because I really enjoy a lot of the stuff that's come from that. I would love to talk about the Space Cadet and
absolutely
Caffeinated Heart. I guess. So I feel like we have to start with the Space Cadet just because of something that happens in the Caffeinated Heart that we'll talk about. But so where did this come from? This seems like it might just be somewhere from deep inside of Jonathan, or maybe is this like somebody else that you've heard this from? Where did this story come from?
Well, I grew up here in the space, we call the Space Coast of Florida. We're very close to the Kennedy Space Center. I've been alive for all the shuttle launches, and the space program has been very near and dear to my heart growing up in this area. So when you live in this area and you're a kid, and when the space program, there was a long lull where there wasn't, no launches, but you feel like you could be part of it. Everyone's wants to link themselves to the space program, like, because they're proud of it so much. From the people that are like mopping the floors at the visitor, the tourist traps and stuff like that, to the actual, astronauts themselves. It's something to be very proud of. And so growing up, you think you can be an astronaut, and you can. You absolutely can. It felt like an attainable thing when you go outside and you see the shuttle going off, on a regular basis. So I had the story in mind for a while, and when Freak Show Night, which I mentioned, was out in the stores, and we were getting good, feedback from it, and the sales were good. Stefano asked me, let's do another book together. I'm like, oh, yeah, that'd be great. What do you have in mind? He goes, you want to do another zombie book? And I was like, we could do another zombie book, but how do you feel about doing this all ages story? And Stefano, who's been published by Heavy Metal Magazine, Bram Stoker award winning artist, draws a lot of gory stuff, a lot of big guns. I wasn't sure what he'd think about it, but he was all about it. And I had learned how to work with Stefano through Freak Show Night, because I wrote that script before I knew I was going to hire him. And he needs large panels. I told myself, if I work with him again, I'm going to give him less panels per page, and that's a great way to do an all ages book. So I decided, let's make every page a splash page, 1 page splash. And that's what we did. So every single page is like you can tear out and frame on your wall. And it's great for, young readers that are, maybe they're still learning sequential storytelling. So, they just follow the dialogue. I got to, kind of put the little, boys, kind of modeled after, my child like wonder of the space program and wanting to, reach for the stars one day. It's a super cool book, and I'm really proud of that one.
That's the cover there. Yeah, I can not praise this art high enough. I am a super big fan of very scratchy, very
it's chaotic.
Yeah,
but it's like childlike though. And
right.
I think that's kind of one of the points of it. It just works out so well. And but again, it's just like, you worked with them also with Caffeinated Hearts, and it's the same thing. This is just like a shot in the life of a barista at something that feels a little bit Jetsony, but
like a cyberpunk.
Like a cyberpunk, Jetsons. And man, the way that he's able to display the story that you wrote with these watercolors and just kind of these kind of chaotic lines, it very much just draws you in on just the aspect of you're reading a story about a human who has something to say. And so these,
I love that page right there.
Yeah. There's something to be said about being able to use watercolor, but also solid lines in there, and just being able to have it. That's, I think, one of the hardest things. I'm the farthest thing from an artist, but I would imagine doing something that looks very fluid and very flowing has to be very hard. Especially, I don't know if he does, just does it physically and then scans it, or if it's digital or whatever. But I couldn't imagine a harder task than making things flow like they do. And I just think, just looking at it, it's amazing to see the colors overlap, and it looks like you want to say clouds, but they're not clouds, because I don't think the moon has clouds. It's just
like
different parts of
vibe,
space.
like an atmosphere.
I'm a big fan of the art. I thought the story was, again, super inspirational, and I wanted to say this earlier when we were talking about comic lengths and how many issues they should be and whatnot, but I'm a big fan of I really like reading collections of short stories, and just reading one story or just reading two stories. I think it's great when you can just jump in and just get a slice of life, you know. And again, that's why I like a lot of the comics that I do, because you just jump in. Not everything needs to be set up, you know. Like, I don't need to know about this kid's dad necessarily, or like the bully at schools. Like, I get it. It's all set up, and that's again a great thing that art does, and definitely this art does as well, is like using the background to tell the story as well. And that was the same thing with Dream Masters. Just being able to use the background to relay that narrative is so cool.
I get it too. You know, I think the longer the story is over multiple issues kind of scares people away from comic books, especially those that are, you know, not inundated into this, you know, form of
lifestyle,
storytelling.
or
It's like they're familiar with Batman and Superman, Spider-Man, but they know that there's going to be an issue after that, and that there's 80 years of history before that, so they don't want to jump. They don't want to pick up, you know, an issue and be like, oh, I don't know why he's, you know, why is he in limbo right now and wearing a purple suit? Well, I thought Spider-Man was red and blue. I thought he was swinging around Manhattan all the time.
Oh my gosh.
So these one shots are great. And then so Caffeinated Hearts, like this is honest and a bit vulnerable, but I haven't had a comic that like almost brought me to tears. I didn't have tears, but it was just like I had that feeling of like, like this story could, like, if it was told cinematically, like it might bring a tear to my eye. It was such a joy to read.
Thank you. Yeah, it's relatable. You know,
it's very relatable because it's a human
story.
It's so, like, you know, when we talked about it's like a steampunk Jetsons in a way, and it's like you can feel that busyness of life, like from the dialogue that's going on, as well as like the art that Stefano did for you. Like you can just feel the atmosphere, and I love how he drew the cafe. Like that's just like it came up out of the ground almost.
Right. Yeah, that was all his thinking too. You know, I wrote the script without it being in that type of cyberpunk, steampunk universe. He just said, he's like, "What do you think about it being like this?" I'm like, "Of course. Why didn't I think of that?" That's why you're the artist, man. So kudos to him.
Collaboration right there, though.
Because I definitely think that brings a level to it that of like it's one of those things again of like just showing the humanity of it, because it's all this chaos and all this like advancement is happening in the background, but the same issues and the same problems are still happening, you know? And I think that's cathartic, you know, for a lot of people that are scared of change or what the future is. It's like, listen, people are still going to have problems. We're still going to have nice places to get drinks, you know, like,
and it's just like, there's the transition of scenes or panels when, there's the guy in line who's like at the end of the, I'm going to keep giving back line. And he's just too busy and doesn't care. And I mean, he kind of ends up doing it anyway, cause he just throws his money at the girl. And then the next guy is just like, I just came here to get coffee for my company and I forgot my wallet. I'm super embarrassed, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, I've dealt with a jerk like that before. And I've also been the guy who like, man, I forgot my wallet and like everybody's counting on me. Like, I'm really sorry. And just the way that story just unfolds and how that all impacts the star. Man, I'm forgetting her name.
Elle. Emerella is her full name.
Emerella, So where's this one come from? Where did you base this on? What was your muse?
You know, it really started with Stefano and I both are big coffee connoisseurs. And, you know, we love coffee. We have that in common. It's a big part of our lives. And, you know, when we were wrapping up Space Cadet, just like how we were wrapping up Freak Show Night, he's like, all right, what's the next project? I said, what do you think about A Slice of Life? And he's like, cool, what's that? And I was like, well, what if we took a story that only took place in a coffee shop? was one day in a coffee shop, and we have like these Pulp Fiction-esque type stories that are connected, and he was down for that. And you can tell, a coffee shop has so many stories in it every single day. If you hang out and you just sit back and you watch, you see these different people come in. Some people are really involved with the people who are working behind the counter. Some people could care less. Some people are just going in there to use the restroom. It's just so many different things, and there's so much story. We crowdfunded that one at the beginning of the year, and by the end of the year, it was out in comic book stores too. So Hyperware and Caffeinated Hearts came out 1 week apart. That was
really?
That was like really, that shocked me. That's probably the first and last time that's going to happen.
Wow.
To
hopefully
me.
not.
Wow.
That's
I
really
know.
cool.
Hopefully not. But that was really cool.
Yeah. So I used to be a barista, and so this was very close to home for me, and definitely just just being able to see all this stuff. And I really, what I appreciated so much about the narrative was, I don't really want to spoil how it ends, because I want to encourage everybody how to read it, but how you bring in that character again, and it just works so perfectly. And it's very much like a poem or a song, and how like it plays out very much of just like everything is flowing very well. Nothing feels forced, like bringing this back in or having this thing
very naturally.
Yes. Like it's like it flowed very well. Like the story was just told very smoothly.
I was trying to tell it in a more poetic way than your typical.
It was very poetic.
I'm glad I came across, and a lot of as you mentioned the barista part, a lot of coffee shops that are also comic book store, or vice versa, comic book store that has coffee. They reached out to me, they're like, we got to carry this book. We're a coffee shop and comic book store. You blended both together, and that just made me so happy.
That's awesome.
Shops telling me they're going to make their own like blend, or create their own coffee to pair with that one.
That's really
it was
cool.
Like best thing I could hear for that. So super proud of that book.
It was just very, very real. And like, I've also formerly been a barista, and I'm originally from the Boise, Idaho area. And I worked at the coffee shop right at the bottom of Bogus Basin, which is a ski hill. And it was a walk-in and a drive-through, and I often on like any given night of the winter worked by myself, and would just have these massive lines. And like the slice of life of just understanding, like, you might just be a barista like at some ski hill, and you're going to deal with all sorts of different people, and some people are just going to like make your day terrible, but there's still the people out there who are just going to make your day A+. And there was one time at the ski hill too that it was one of those situations. I was working by myself. There was a line at the counter, a line at the drive-through, and I had this one lady who, I feel sorry about my interaction with her, but like, she chose like the worst time to start complaining about how long it was taking to get her coffee, because she was in town to take her grandson and his friends for his birthday up to the hill. And I'm just like, I understand. Now
she's number one priority.
And I'm like, I understand your dilemma, lady, but do you not see my dilemma? Like, do you not see how I'm here by myself, and I'm running 2 registers? And so like the Caffeinated Hearts really hit it. It really struck my heart.
Well, thank you. And as you can probably see, we only see one employee at that coffee shop, but we know there's a second one. Miss Hazel is telling her to go to break, come back, get on the drive-through. We don't see her, but and you don't have to have worked in a coffee shop to appreciate the being alone at work, but having someone telling you what to do, and where is that person? You can even just be a customer that can appreciate, like, where's the manager? But this poor person's working, their ass off, but they need some help. That's I hope it translates to a lot of people other than those that have worked at coffee shops. If you've dealt with the public, you probably can relate to it.
Yeah, for sure. But
well, hey, we're I was just gonna say, go ahead.
We are gonna keep speaking in sync. So you have there's one more one shot you put out last year I want to get to, and it's the Recount Preamble. And so this is actually a prequel to again an arc that you wrote called just the Recount. And we spoke that we're fans of Scout Comics, and they have a lot to do, and I also have like a small pocket, and so I have to be selective on what I get. And I'm definitely going to be picking up like the series Recount. Is trade paperback out for that?
Yeah, it's available.
So I'll probably go that route. But Preamble, just whatever I'm going to get myself into with Recount, like it just felt like such a perfect like prequel setup. Because I mean, I'm gonna go into Recount now, like knowing more about your main character. But man, that one shot was just such a thrill ride.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a lot of fun too. I had the choice of either getting onto the second volume right away or waiting a little bit and just feeding the masses, no pun intended again, with a prequel. And I was like, this first volume really needed more backstory, more mythos to it that would give it more of a punch too. So it's actually, I tell people that pick up both the trade and the preamble, like they ask me which one should I read first, and I say read volume 1 first, then read the preamble, then reread volume 1, because then you're going to pick up more things. And then the preamble also serves to also set up volume 2. There's elements in the preamble that are going to continue into volume 2 that weren't even touched on in volume 1. That's a lot of days down the road, but there's a lot of purpose behind that one shot than more people realize. But it's also I think it serves as a good story even without volume 1 even existing. This life of this politician that we really don't see. A lot of people just hate politics in general. No matter what side of the aisle you're on. And then there's people that hate both sides. And then this is like a very human story about someone who that their life segued into that, and they had no idea that's how things were going to go. Every choice that they made in life wasn't to go that way, but it did. And
it's like he made all the right choices according to like his cultural upbringing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I really, really enjoyed reading through that one.
Thank you.
And who was the artist on that one? Because that's some spooky art.
So for the preamble, that was a Spanish artist named Ruben Gil, super talented artist. Not the same artist that were on the first volume, but yeah, he definitely filled in their shoes and then some. I loved working with Ruben. I hope I can work with him again. That was, every time I got pages back, it was I got goosebumps, and it was just so eerie. That I'm like, this is on point. This is like scary. I felt like I was, how people tell me like, oh, when I read the Recount, it felt like I was watching the news. Like that was me when I was getting pages back from the preamble.
That's awesome.
Super talented.
So there's more to come then for Recount, is what you're.
There is, but it's been a struggle to get volume 2 off the ground. I'm not going to lie. I wrote the first issue of volume 2 summer of last year. Hired an artist to do 8 pages. That artist didn't work out. Now I'm out of that money for those 8 pages and have to start again with another artist. And so that's one step forward, 2 steps back.
Well, I guess on that note, like how can listeners and how can we like support you and all that?
I have my own website, jonathanhedrickcomics.com. I sell a lot of my comic books there. Have a lot of exclusives and variants that are sold out from wherever they were originally put out. Essentially, me selling my comps on that website. But
Yeah.
I can't stress people enough to pre-order your comics from your local comic shop. You know, I think so many people that have been long-time comic book fans and readers still don't pre-order. You know, it's like you're that small business in your town needs to know exactly how many to order, and they're not going to order 10 copies of every single issue. You know, there's too many comic books in that previews catalog for them to make that investment on a monthly basis.
And there's another aspect to that too, that like sometimes the comic shop is held to a certain amount to order. If they order, like if I go in and I want to order, and I'm just going to use it as an example, but I'm not sure. But if I was to order the recount preamble through my shop, they might have to order like 1 or 4 more.
Yeah.
And they don't know if that's going to move for them.
Right.
But my comic shop, they're happy to do it for me.
Right.
And like, so it's good to have like a good relationship with your comic shop too, just because like you're helping people. And so yeah, we want to help you out.
For sure.
So yeah. So that's your website. Where else can people find you?
I'm on the 3 big social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So whichever one that, you dabble in that. And yeah, see me at I'm trying to make it to more cons and signings beyond Florida. I'm going to be at Fan Expo Portland later on this month.
I'm going.
All right, I'll see you there.
I'll be there.
Awesome.
Are you there all 3 days?
All 3 days. I'm me and my wife are both guests there, so we got.
Dude, awesome. Yeah,
bring those comics up behind you for me to sign.
I will. Yeah, I'm gonna. I asked my kids
get
the
a
other
picture
day if
for
they
the
wanted
gram.
to go, and my daughter doesn't want to go, but my son does, so we'll make it up there. So
awesome. Yeah. So I kind of been all over the southeast, of the country with living here in Florida, but had the opportunity to be a guest at Portland, Oregon. I was like, but I haven't been to the West Coast for my comic book endeavors, so why not?
That's amazing.
Hoping to get some people from Washington, California. That's I'm not important enough to get selected by Emerald City, so I'll give Fan Expo Portland 100% of my would have given to Emerald City. So
no, that's awesome, man. No, so that's awesome. I'm gonna. I guess I'll see you soon.
Very cool.
Monk, do you have any other questions?
No, nothing that I can think of. Other than the only thing that I was gonna ask you was, we talked a lot about indie comics, and what are some indie comics that you're reading that you can suggest to us to go and check out? We're always looking for that.
Yeah, I also read a lot of the same comic books that come from the publishers that I try to support the same label and things like that. But I can't praise a lot of stuff that are coming out from like Boom. I love Something Is Killing the Children is definitely like a top of the read pile book. And
nice.
James's other book, Department of Truth, that's like I dream of him asking me to like write like a one shot side. I got too much on my plate. Have that Jonathan kid write I think I might be older than him actually, but I love his stuff. Stephanie Phillips, she's great. I love Grimm.
Is that what Stephanie Phillips put out?
So she writes Grimm for Boom, but she did Harley Quinn for DC.
Okay.
What else am I reading? Yeah, I mean, I pick up a lot of books, more or less. I still pick up the big two. I'm not a hater on those books either, but it's just like we were talking about having limited time for TVs, limited time for the books too. So I back a lot of crowdfunded stuff too. So I'm reading a lot of self-published crowdfunded books too. my buddy Brian Hawkins, he has a book he's crowdfunding called America's Kingdom, which is a cool concept where, what if America, was a monarchy, not a democracy.
Okay.
So check
That's
that
fantastic.
out. Yeah, I think issues 2 and 3 are about to be crowdfunded later on this month. So I'm sure he has like a catch up tier for issue 1.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Black Box comes out with a lot of other cool books. They had one before Dream Master came out called Ninja Kaiden. Think of it like a supernatural Iron Man type. Think of Iron Man fighting ghosts, kind of.
I was looking at the cover for that one because I mean, like I honestly didn't know about Black Box until Dream Master.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of looking through like what else did they do. They also have like a comic rendition of the New Testament.
I saw that too. I never checked that out, but yeah, I mean, I think that's good on them,
Yeah.
Why not? So, that would definitely sell.
I might read that just to see what it's like. But yeah.
Spoiler alert. He comes back. All right. Well, I guess should we end it on that? So, Jonathan, I just want to say thank you so much for just hanging out with us, being willing to do this. We appreciate it so much. And I wanted to say this earlier. I have Space Cadet in the mail. I'm gonna get a copy of Caffeinated Heart because I'm just a huge fan of that.
Thank you.
Those worlds, those stories. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Thanks for letting me talk about myself for an hour. So
we appreciate it. We wanted to know what was up in the mind of Jonathan Hedrick.
Yeah, we talk about ourselves every week, so we'd give somebody who's much more creative than us a chance.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Cool.
Yeah. So guys, if you are enjoying what you are hearing, make sure that you give us a like and a subscribe wherever you can like and subscribe things. We are there. If you are a fan of the audio, check out the video. If you're a fan of the video, check out the audio. Jonathan, anything you want to say before we land this bird?
No, thanks for everyone for watching. If you're rewatching and everything, just keep supporting indie comics.
There you go.
Yeah.
Matt, anything for you, buddy?
No, man, you can take it out.
All right. Well, when I read your comics, I like to say, I haven't read comics like these in years.